Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, April 19th. It's the day before Record Store Day. There's about 350 albums coming out this week. I got 10 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist I put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 350 albums coming out this week, which is kind of typical this time of year. Once we get closer to Record Store Day, you know, there tends to be a dip in new releases. Same with like right after Record Store Day. The first couple of weeks seems to be about the same. But I got 10 albums I'm going to talk about today. There's something I don't talk about on the show today. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find any of these in your local brick and mortar stores, I'll put links down below in the comment section. They should all be available online. So the big album that I'm most excited for this week is this new one from Pearl Jam. This is Dark Matter. It's their 12th studio album. It's going to run you about $40 online. There's a standard black version of it. There's also red and clear versions that are available through their website. I did pre-order the clear version. You got the RSD version that's coming out this week also. I'll probably grab the RSD version. But this album is the first time that the band has worked with Andrew Watt. I know Andrew Watt worked with Eddie Vedder on Earthling, which I think is hands down Eddie's best solo work. I'm expecting a lot from this album. I love the two singles that they've released off of it. It's an album I've been waiting to get released for the last several years. And Eddie Vedder just did an interview just recently where he talked about he felt like this is some of the best work that the band has ever done. But you know, I feel like you always get that from bands, regardless of how good the album turns out. They always feel like their newest album is some of the best stuff. But judging off those two tracks, you know, I've got really high expectations. So you got that coming out this week, and then you got the new album from Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department. This is her 11th studio album. It's going to run you about $40 online. There is a Target exclusive version of this, and then there's 4 different versions that are available through her website. I am not a fan of how they're rolling out this album. Like I said, I am a Taylor Swift fan, but I don't like the fact that they're doing a different bonus track on each one of the 4 variants. I know Olivia Rodrigo did this with Guts also, and I think it's just a bad precedent. You're forcing people to buy albums that they might not normally buy had it not been for each one of those different tracks on there. You know, if they want to buy it because it's got because they like the different colors or they like the different covers on there, that's one thing. But I think forcing your fans to buy albums by doing this, I think if you're going to do this, just do one version with the 4 bonus tracks on there. And then kind of leave it at that. Or just do all 4 of those bonus tracks on every single one of them. Or just do the 4 bonus tracks on just the Target version. I don't like doing that the way they're doing it. But anyway, there's 16 tracks across the 2 LPs. Kind of the overarching theme of this album is the 5 stages of grief. Got some great appearances on here, though. You got Post Malone's on here. You got Florence and the Machine on here. The question I have is who produced this album. They haven't officially announced that yet. I'm assuming it's Jack Antonoff because he's worked with her on the last several albums, but nothing officially has been released regarding that. And then there's also an album this week that's been long out of print. I mean, it's been years. We've been waiting decades for this album to get reissued. You know, it's something I've been asking for over and over again for the last several years. Please reissue this album because I'd love to have a copy of it. I'm just joking. It's the 10,000th time this album has been reissued. We got a new version of The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd coming out this week. Of course, released in 1973. It was their 8th studio album. It's a 2 LP release that they're doing for this. It's going to run you about $48 online. So what's different about this one than the 10 million other copies that are available of this album is it's 2 LPs. It's not clear vinyl. So on the album, you only only the top side, only one side is playable. And then the bottom side, they've got UV printed images on there. It looks really cool. I think this would be a really cool idea. I think this is kind of a way to do a picture disc without having all the audio issues that picture discs typically have. So this also includes new album artwork. It's got an exclusive poster that comes with it. Look, I don't care that I already have 10 copies of this album. I pre-ordered it as soon as it was announced. I think it's kind of cool. And I'd love to see them do, not necessarily Pink Floyd, but I'd love to see them do, other bands do picture discs like this. Because like I said, it's kind of a cool idea without having all those audio issues. So you got that coming out this week, and then you also got this, the best of Bruce Springsteen coming out. This is a new greatest hits compilation from him. 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $43 online. There's a standard black version of this. There's also a red Amazon exclusive version. So this is not a lot different than the greatest hits compilation that came out back in '95. It's very similar lineup. There's only a couple of different tracks that are different on there. I guess my issue is with this is there's 18 songs on this album from 73 to 2020. And then there's an additional 13 tracks on the digital version of this album. If you're going to do this release, and it's pretty similar to the release from 95, just do a 3 LP release, add those extra 13 tracks on there, and do a full compilation from across his career. I think it's a better way than to just do this release like this. You've also got the new album from the Melvins coming out this week. This is Tarantula Heart. It's their 27th studio album. It's going to run you about $26 online. There's a standard black version of this. There's also a silver version that's the indie exclusive. The Melvins are one of those bands that really kind of helped lay the groundwork or the foundation for grunge in the late part of the 80s in the Pacific Northwest. Some really great stuff. I'm really only familiar, honestly, with the beginning part of their career. I have listened to their last 2 albums, which were... they've definitely evolved on from what they did earlier in the career for sure. But they've done some interesting stuff throughout their career. The last couple of albums opened up with these super long songs within the first couple of tracks on the album. This one's the same way. Opens up with a 19-minute track called "Pain Equals Funny." They're one of those bands that if you haven't listened to the Melvins in a long time, definitely go back through and stream them and check them out. It's definitely one I'll check out this week. And then you've got this really interesting 7-inch that's coming out. This is the Dandy Warhols. Summer of Love is the A side, and the Love Song is the B side. And why I think this is kind of interesting, this is a 7-inch that came out earlier this year. So Summer of Love was off of their new album, Rockmaker, which came out, I think it was February, when that album came out. January, February this year. But the B side, which is Love Song, is a track off of Earth to the Dandy Warhols, which came out back in 2008. So I have no clue why they would pair those 2 songs together. When this 7-inch was released earlier this year, it was on Glow in the Dark vinyl. I think this is just a standard black release this week. So I think this is more of a wider release that they do it for this album. They're 2 good tracks. I think both of them are probably better on the albums that they're on. I guess I should also say that I'm not a big fan of 7-inch releases. I'm really kind of lazy when it comes to listening to music. I don't want to have to flip it after every song. So, I'll probably just stream these and just listen to them on the full album. A couple of great looking jazz releases this week. They're both part of the Blue Note Classic series, which, I've discovered so many great albums over the last several years from. But the first one was Herbie Hancock, Speak Like a Child. This was released back in 1968. It's going to run you about $28 online. So this is the follow-up to his classic album, Maiden Voyage, which came out back in 65. But when they went in the studio to record this album, Herbie really wanted to do something, more optimistic, more upbeat, with all the social unrest that was going on in the U.S. in the late part of the 60s. I really enjoyed this album. This is one that I've only streamed a couple of times over the last couple of years, but I'm definitely looking forward to grabbing this one this week. They've got a great lineup on here, though. You got Ron Carter, you got Mikey Roker, you got Thad Jones, there's Peter Phillips on here. Like I said, it's I think it's probably not his best album, but I think it's definitely up there as one of the top 5 or 10 Herbie Hancock albums. So, like I said, I'll probably grab that one this week. And then this next one I'm not that familiar with. This is Bobby Hutcherson, Happenings, released in 67, like I said, part of the classic series. So it's all cut by Kevin Gray. It's pressed at Optimal. It's going to run you about $29 online. This is one that, like I said, I've never listened to this one, but it does have a really good version of Maiden Voyage on here, which is the track by Herbie Hancock. That's the only track I've ever listened to, and I didn't even realize it was on this album. But like I said, I'll go through and listen to the rest of this one this week. But you got Herbie Hancock on here, you got Bob Cranshaw, you got Joe Chambers. Really good lineup that's on here, so I'm sure it's going to be a good album also. So last 2 albums on my list are both music on vinyl releases. They're both going to be kind of limited to 1,000 copies, so it might be kind of harder to get here in the U.S. They're both from the band Saxon, but this is the first one is Dogs of War, released back in 1995. It was their 12th studio album. It's going to be on gold vinyl. It's going to run you about $40, limited to 1,000 copies. This album, if you go back through it and listen to Saxon, they're one of those just an English heavy metal band. But with this album here, I think they kind of changed a little bit musically. They kind of went a little more towards like the hard rock compared to the heavy metal stuff they did before, which I know there's not a big distinction between the two, but it's a little more melodic than the band did before. I really like the direction they took on this album. This is also the last album that the band did with Graham Oliver, which is kind of a funny story. Graham took this bootleg from the early part of the 80s and sold the rights to it, and didn't tell the band, didn't share the profits with any other band members. So once the rest of the band found out about it, they fired for Graham from the band. I think the band kind of changed musically, kind of going forward a little bit after this album. But so you got that one coming out this week. Like I said, it's limited to 1,000 copies. I will say that whenever I want to grab a Music on Vinyl release, I tend to pre-order them from over in Europe, because Music on Vinyl presses their stuff over in the Netherlands. It could take about a week or so to get over to the U.S. So sometimes if it's a really limited album, if it's 1,000 copies or less, it might be kind of hard to grab over here. So if you are interested in grabbing a copy of it, you might want to try to pre-order it from over there. And then the second album is Killing Ground. This was released back in 2001. It was their 15th studio album. Also on gold vinyl, also running about $40. Kind of a return to a heavier sound from the band. I'm not as big of a fan of this album as the first one I talked about. There's a really cool cover on here of The Court of the Crimson King, which of course is from King Crimson. Great cover on there. If you want to check that out, both of those albums are actually pretty good. If you're not familiar with Saxon, I think it's a good place to start with that band. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. I've already got some of the stuff on pre-order. Of course, I got the Pearl Jam on pre-order. Same with that Taylor Swift release. Same with the Pink Floyd release. I might grab both of those jazz releases. One to see what I end up grabbing this week. I got to kind of, we're getting close to Record Store Day on Saturday, so I got to kind of tighten my budget up a little bit. I don't want to spend too much, because I know I'm going to probably break my budget on Saturday. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to grabbing. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.